We're good to go. Thank you, Jonny. So many Johnnies in my life.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's
Too
rare.
many?
That's rare that I meet one. It's nice. So you see somebody else out there holding
you
it
gotta
down.
put a ceiling on that, otherwise it gets out of control.
Otherwise, I'm out here doing all the work.
It was it was a popular name in the 90s. I feel like I went to school with several Jonathans.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it's
Jonathan.
more popular than you think it is, and then
Definitely
you're
Johnson,
like,
Jonathans, Johnny's, or you gotta pick that and stay with
Johnny
it.
has a certain that's a choice.
Yeah, it truly is.
And I mean, I didn't go to school with many Jackies, maybe Jacquelines, because
I think
from
the Jackies
Quebec.
are on the rise too. Or I think it must have been like around the time I was born, it was a big name
Oh,
because
yeah?
like I know a lot of Jackies.
My little sister.
Yeah, his little sister's name.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Weird.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks it's
that's
weird. Like, why?
confusing.
Not really. It's totally fucking easy to keep.
Did you hesitate before like started dating Jackie? Like, oh, that's the same
No,
name.
because my little sister, like, I'll call her Butthead or other stuff too. You know
Okay,
what I mean,
there's-
right? It's not that
there's
big of a
different
deal.
names.
Yeah, Jake Quellen
Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's all
I
good, right?
never call my sister by her real name.
No, why would you?
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
exactly.
I'm not a psychopath.
I say, hey, idiot, get over here.
Yeah, I call my little brother shithead mostly.
Yeah, yeah.
Disappointment. Adopted.
Communicate with points and grunts.
Yeah.
My sister's nickname has evolved over the years, but now it's just like a weird sound. Her name is Kelsey, but for some reason I just call her Kiwi. It's not a word. It's
Yeah,
Kiwi.
that's not. Yeah.
Kiwi.
Kiwi?
Like, I don't
it.
know where it came. Like, it's evolved. I don't know where it started. It's just that's where it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me and my little brother just call each other various like just disrespectful names. And it's evolved. It's pretty aggressive now. But then our older brother, Justin, he's always Justin. Like he
Okay.
just has our respect.
Justin.
Yeah, he's a little more straight-laced than,
Yeah.
than the other two. Yeah.
We don't try that shit with
Justin.
him. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
He does the taxes.
Alright.
All right, we're going to get started. Welcome to House of Stone, the podcast where everyone has a story and we get into the nitty-gritty of it all. Today's guests, we have Jackie Agnew and Jonny Devitto.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Oh my God, thank you so
excited to
much.
be
I'm going
here.
to keep the first part of this podcast in. Like,
That was a good
yeah.
that was a good chunk.
Oh, yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Riff
I don't
video.
need to edit anything.
No.
Fuck that. I don't like editing anyway, so.
Oh yeah, no, I did not edit our last podcast episode.
You did not. You just
I
record,
just synced the
upload.
audio, and then I was like, "That's good enough."
It's the Canucks playoffs happening in game one and things like that. There's more important things to do than.
It's such a, I mean, for podcasting, who cares? Like,
Exactly.
they like the rough cut. Like, when I listen to podcasts, I don't care if it's like,
Yeah, we
Perfectly
don't have. We're not
structured.
getting a lot of feedback on our.
No,
you
no.
have been? Or you, no, you're not getting
from
anything.
our dozens of listeners.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
don't really chime in on that.
No,
We're
no,
pretty
everyone
niche.
just
Yeah.
says it's great. It's fun.
Yeah,
Whatever.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they don't have the heart to criticize us if they could. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And,
Yeah.
and I think that they should. We ask them every week, to give us some
them.
ideas, some topics
Just
to talk. Anything like
something.
that. Yeah. If
Yeah.
you don't get any feedback, then it's just going to continue to be further away from what it originally was supposed to be, which is a music podcast. But now
Yeah.
it's pretty much just conspiratorial Bigfoot conversations. and
I mean, I read the description, and I support this.
it's a lot of
Thank
fun.
you.
Is it
It's a lot of-
Bigfoot every time?
No.
No,
It's like
but
all
it's just
different.
some sort of conspiracy.
A lot of conspiracies. We the last 3, we got pretty heavy into 9/11, which we decided
Yeah.
to pump the brakes on.
We had to.
Yeah, you may want to. Maybe not the second episode.
No,
about
we don't
it.
put that in the description. That's kind of
Yeah.
just like a fun surprise.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
takes
you
up half of
you
the
tune in on
episode.
Monday morning for a good time, and then all of a sudden 20 minutes of 9/11
Just
material hits you.
heavy.
Yeah, well, it
Yeah.
happened because Netflix just released a new documentary, and it's pretty one-sided in the
Okay.
sense of, you know what I mean, kind of like the hoorah, and this is what
Yeah.
happened, and this is what
Yeah.
America kind of had
Yeah.
to do. And there's a point in the film where they say they kind of like allude to this thing in a very in almost a humorous way, like 9/11 is the first kind of new conspiracy of the new age, and isn't that ridiculous? And you're
First?
like, yeah,
New?
hold on,
What?
Yeah, exactly. As if we hadn't had JFK and Watergate
excuse me?
and everything. You know what I mean? So it was a slap in the face to me personally.
You took offense to it.
I did. I was 11 years old, and it changed my whole life. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
event, right? So,
Yeah.
and the conspiracy stuff is fun to talk about.
Yeah.
So for them to
Oh,
have
for
like a
sure.
5-part documentary and completely brush over that in 5 seconds is it was a little bit ridiculous.
If you don't stop him right now, he's going to hijack this whole podcast.
It's
for
fine. I mean, go listen to their episode and listen to.
If you like what you hear about 9/11,
no,
It's true. Yeah. We get into a lot of that stuff, but no, we're here to talk about other stuff. You please lead the way.
Well, first, I always start with an introduction of my guests. So Jackie. Jackie is delightful both on stage and off. Her infectious smile leads to audience being stunned in the best way with her dark and dirty comedy style. Jonny mixes dirtbag and comedy flawlessly in his autobiographical storytelling style of comedy on stage. Both of them are from Vancouver, and they made their way to Montreal this past fall, and they've really made their name in the city very quickly. And I'm so happy to have you here. I'm so happy to have you in Montreal, getting to share the stage with you both. I also have an introduction for your podcast, but you already described it, so we're going to pass.
Yeah, we got a sneak peek.
But
Please listen to it. It's not as bad. It's not as crazy as we said.
Listen, like, and subscribe to Show Me Yours. It's a music, comedy, and conspiracy theory podcast. So much fun.
Whatever we want to talk about. We went into OJ for about a half an hour too on the day.
My God.
We anything that's
newsworthy.
that's current events. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
We break a lot of news
Definitely.
stories.
There's a turkey infestation in the city here. We've been getting into that.
Have you heard of the turkey takeover?
Turkeys, like, I grew up rural Quebec.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's infested.
Yeah.
Like, I am not surprised they're in this city.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about Vancouver, what wildlife you guys have, but there's a.
Yeah,
I mean,
none of that
BC
shit.
has lots of bears and shit. I'm sure they make their way.
Yeah. I grew up on Vancouver Island,
Okay.
and my house was like on a mountain, so very much like integrated with wildlife. A lot of deer and bears and cougars and all that. Not a lot of turkeys running around.
No,
Zero turkeys.
Yeah.
It's been well documented that I'm not a fan of birds at all. And
why is that, Jonny?
it's too much to unpack. Right now, I don't even honestly know what to say.
Fear, trauma-based.
I never knew where it happened.
Trauma-based.
Definitely trauma-based. I went to buy a bag of weed off a guy that I worked with years ago, and I walked into his apartment, and he was cooking dinner, and he had like a little, I don't know if it was like a parakeet, a little green bird on his shoulder.
Okay.
That was out of its cage, and it's his little buddy, right?
Okay.
So I walked into his house, and he looks at me, and he's like, "You cool with birds?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm cool with birds. Like, why would I not be cool with birds?"
You cool with birds?
Yeah. Just regular
You don't
stoner
expect
shit.
that from your drug dealer. You're cool with birds, right,
Well,
bro?
no, if you're because I'm from a few hours outside of Vancouver, so definitely small town. And like when a drug dealer is gonna not only have a bird there, probably gonna have some tarantulas in a tank, maybe like a samurai sword. There's all kinds of weird shit.
This
right?
is why the SSQDC opened up, is to save us from fucking trauma.
Bullshit.
But okay, so
but
we
it
have
also,
opinions
or
on
dispensaries.
the dispensaries here because you can only buy from the government.
That's true.
We don't
not
agree
great.
with that.
It's
No,
super
it's not fun.
expensive, and
Yeah.
it's like there's not that many located
true.
around.
They never show you a samurai sword that you get to hold. Like you don't have any fun
You're
stories.
Missing the
lack
full
of
experience
birds. Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the dispensary. Is for
Absolutely.
sure.
You know what I mean?
But like they even because in like BC, like there's like mom and pop dispensaries,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and so there's a little bit more competition, so the price isn't like completely controlled.
Oh, fair.
Yeah,
the
we order
government,
ounces
yeah.
from BC for like $50, and they send them in the mail. So yeah, we'll give you the thing. There's like this city is beautiful, and there's a lot of cool culture. There's a lot of things going.
Yeah.
But you can't turn right on a red light.
It's bullshit.
You know what I mean? And you buy your weed off the government. There's a couple things here. You're not perfect.
No, there's
you know?
a lot of bullshit in this
Yeah,
city.
okay.
Like, oh yes, fun. We have festivals in the summer, but
Yeah.
is that worth all of the bullshit?
Well,
No.
I mean,
It's like the cheap rent, really.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
like kind
Fair.
of.
There's lots of
trumping
pros
the-
and cons.
That's
Yeah,
what drove us
yeah,
here. Is
as with
definitely
anything.
It wasn't the culture. We came here for the rent for sure.
Yeah.
But now that we could being ingratiated into the city and stuff, there is like a lot of cool things. But it is funny to see Montreal kind of has its own identity and it's so proud of itself. And if
Yeah.
you're just from the outside of that fence, you could really poke the balloon like
Oh,
really easily.
for
You know what I
sure.
mean? You could pop that bubble pretty quick.
Oh, for sure. It's a facade.
yeah.
Like, they're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like, yes, we take pride in our city. But then most of us are not from here. And we're like, this.
Yeah.
You take pride in your city, then
Please.
just work on the infrastructure. There's
Just-
fucking holes in the ground.
Yeah, the infrastructure is
I mean-
pretty,
You
yeah.
just, I mean, this is going to be your first summer here.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about that.
It's, I mean, there's lots of, but like, you guys are commuters and drivers. It's
Yeah.
like, it sucks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
luckily for most of the shows, we can walk to them, so we
Good.
don't
Yeah.
have to
You guys
drive a
picked a
whole
primo
lot.
location.
Yeah, being right downtown,
exactly.
we
We're
can
right
walk to anything,
downtown,
yeah.
and so like I mean, like in Vancouver, we had to drive everywhere, so
Yeah.
we're filling up with gas every week there. Here, we fill up with gas like once a month.
Since we've been here in
Maybe-
6 months, I think
yeah.
we've got like 4 tanks or something. It's crazy.
Yeah, like we
It's
really
insane. And
don't
we're going to
drive
like
that
Cornwall,
often.
and we've done
Oh,
shows
Yeah, we
in
just like drive
Brockville.
just to
Yeah.
like put some miles on.
Yeah,
Just to make sure it's running right.
there's a Taco Bell in Cornwall, Ontario that we drive to, and it's
Yeah,
a
we
nice
went there
time.
on
It's,
Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's-
Cornwall, Ontario is a weird town.
I
but
like
it's-
we're looking at property there.
honestly, if comedy goes
feel
tits
quite
up, I'm gonna get a
comfortable
job at the
there.
mill. I think we'll be fine.
Maybe
Like,
an investment property for sure. Maybe not stay there forever. Like the few
feel
shows
pretty
I've
at
been
home
there,
there.
I was just like, wow, I feel like I'm back home in Howick.
Exactly.
These people, like these older gentlemen, are way too comfortable
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
to me.
Oh,
I'm a
yeah.
complete
Oh, yeah.
stranger.
Yeah.
There's,
Exactly.
it's all white people.
oh yeah, you're gonna hear
that's
some
why I'm
wild
so
shit at the bar.
comfortable there.
100%.
You feel like you're at home.
She nailed it. Exactly.
Yeah.
They roll
There's
out the red
that,
carpet
then it
for
could,
us.
like that goes away pretty quickly
Yeah,
for me. I
yeah.
don't know.
The novelty wears off. I think
Oh, for
I'm like nostalgic about those kind of towns because I'm from that town. But if
Yeah.
you put me in my hometown, I'd lose my mind and say, "Get me the fuck out of there!"
Absolutely.
Right? So
I don't know if you
could
feel
see the similarities.
yeah.
the
Yeah.
same way, but
Yeah.
like I can't spend more than an afternoon in my hometown.
Oh no, yeah.
Yeah, especially because like being from a small town, like every time like you're gonna run into people from high school that you
Oh,
don't want to
I-
see, and
Yeah.
it's just like that whole deal that I don't
Hate it.
love.
Well, it's
yeah.
shitty too. Like
Hate
the
it.
hometown, in the 20 years that I haven't been home, it's drastically changed,
Yeah.
and it was always like a hippie kind of neighborhood. BC Bud was huge and
Okay.
shit. So I'm from that neighborhood that grew it all and stuff. But the drug scene there was kind of regulated by the people that were in control.
Okay.
So as a kid, you could get like cocaine and stuff like that, like pretty regularly or whatever. But
Wow,
you couldn't get
okay.
heroin or you couldn't get meth, and they were very proud about
They're
that.
like, yes,
It was super
we
weird.
have
right?
a boundary
It
and
was-
we stick
yeah,
to
exactly,
it.
right? And
you will not find meth here.
well, no, totally, right? And then
It's
you would
on the
have
sign
you'd
when you
have
drive into town.
100%. And then you have these like career functioning alcoholics and drug addicts or whatever that are totally
Yeah.
fine. There's a guy.
So fun.
Yeah, he's gonna, he could fucking fix your car. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He'll come in and run the electrical in your house or whatever. And he's probably gonna do some bumps on the weekend or whatever. But now, what you have is a complete infestation of junkies. And like Jackie was saying, the people that you're gonna run into now are like the guys that I grew up with are now like neighborhood crackheads in some situation.
No.
So it's heartbreaking,
bummer.
and yeah, exactly. So there's a whole lot of stuff that isn't funny about it. Last time I went home, I ran into a guy that was standing in the McDonald's drive-through line, and he was standing there, and I was like, "Holy shit! Like, dude, what's going on?" And we did like a quick remember when, and then I realized he's just waiting for a car to pull out so he can jump in front of him and try to get like insurance money. Yeah,
Oh,
so
shit.
so I don't go home very often.
Yeah. Not the best vibe.
No, it really isn't. It fuels the comedy though. Now you know where my perspective comes from on a lot of things.
I mean, it's giving you good bones to build your.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. I wish it gave me thicker skin because poor Jackie, I was like losing it over parking on the like 5 minutes ago when we came in here,
Yeah.
and then I was over it immediately once we parked, and then but now like
Yeah.
that had soured Jackie's mood. We walked over here, I had to apologize in the elevator and shit. So.
It was
Damn.
eventful. 20 minutes late. That
Yeah.
we
Oh,
were
yeah.
late. There was a lot happening in that 20 minutes.
I mean, there is nothing more real about a relationship when you're both stressed in a car. Like
Oh
when
my
you're both
God,
just,
yeah.
like, I have never been more like the biggest toxic person
Yeah.
in a car stressed with like my boyfriend. Just
Yeah.
like, and especially about like time. It's like, oh, we have to be here at this time.
Well, that's the thing is the
And
clock
there's
is always
nothing nobody
ticking,
can
right?
do.
And especially like for as like comedians, because
Yeah.
lots of times you're like on your way to a show or something,
Yeah.
so then you have to go from that and then like be in a
perform.
show
Oh,
environment,
yeah.
be
Yeah.
around all these comedians,
Yeah.
pretend everything's like
Everything is
cool.
okay.
Yeah, like you weren't
Yeah.
just at each other's throats like 5 fucking seconds ago. It could be difficult, but also like the timing of it will change. Like, 'cause like I said, as soon as like I park the car, we're fine.
You're good.
But while I'm looking for the spot, like I'm noticing it now. Which is embarrassing that we're going to say it. Let's break it down a little bit. I drive way too fast through the streets looking for a parking spot.
My God.
And Jackie's like, well, there's
So
one. And there's,
there, yeah.
And I'm just like getting more and more pissed off because I've already passed, like, 'cause there's no fucking parking spots, but I don't realize that I've already passed 3 of them. So, I got problems.
Yeah.
I could be a smarter
We all
man.
do.
Yeah,
We all do.
patience could be a virtue, I'm sure, but
I mean, we all do. We have all something in common, and that is we're all dating comedians. And I wanted to go into that a little bit. How
us
did
poor
you?
sons of bitches.
Oh my God, I have so much to say. Well, how did you two meet? Let's start with that.
So we were kind of talking about it before, but so we met in film school.
Okay.
We both did the writing program at Vancouver Film School.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so
Okay.
then we were like the only comedy writers in
took
class,
a
or the
minute for
only
me to
ones that were
shift.
funny in our
Yeah.
Yeah,
opinions.
the only one that
Yeah.
some tried to be funny.
Well, I was
Yeah.
I was like a plumber for like at that point about like 8 years, and I was hating it. I was it was raining and like it was almost freezing, so the water wasn't ice yet, and I'm building a swimming pool with no roof over top, so I'm dropping my wrench into like 2 feet of water. They can't pump it out fast enough.
Yeah.
And I was losing my mind, and a friend of mine was going to Vancouver Film School for animation,
Okay.
and I always wrote. So I was sitting there and I was like, you know what, I'm better than fucking this, than what I'm
Yes.
doing right now.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I don't, and like, and plumbing is fantastic. If there's any plumber out here that's listening, just tell me to go fuck myself. That if you love that that way of life and what it
I
provides
mean,
for you, then fantastic. But for me,
we need plumbing.
Absolutely.
Same with like, I mean,
Yeah.
Mike is an electrician. We
Yeah.
need electrical, but the trades.
can
it's
you do
not
it every
great.
day?
It wears you
right?
down for
Yeah,
sure.
It's a
so-
weird
yeah.
environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my brother
I-
and my dad do it, and they love it. It's kind of like a part of their identity and shit. And
Yeah.
I kind of fell into it because I dropped out of business school after high school. I was trying to find myself or whatever, and then I
Yeah,
found
yeah.
something that I was good enough at that like paid the bills. But then it got to this point where you're like, "Fuck, do I want to do this forever?"
Yeah.
So I'm from that shitty town, and I kind of had this idea like I'm gonna write like these like I could be like a low rent Tarantino or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring like a new age of crime cinema or whatever was the idea. And then I get to film school, and there's this girl that's just writing hilarious shit.
Aw.
And I'm funny like in the room, but I didn't go there with the intent to write comedy.
Yeah.
So then it became this point of like where my stories were still definitely like darker crime stories or whatever,
Yeah.
but making sure there was jokes in there to kind of compete or keep up with her in writers' rooms and
Okay.
tables and stuff like that, and it
Awesome.
rounded everything out. Yeah, for sure,
Okay.
in a really fun way.
Oh, that's
And she could
awesome.
keep up, like she was pounding pints, and we'd just go back to class and stuff too. So like,
Yeah, no, we were drunk throughout most of it.
yeah,
So it was like a year-long program, and
Okay.
like an intensive program. Like you're in school like 8 hours a day every day,
Oh,
basically.
God.
Yeah.
It's
But,
a full-time job.
Yeah.
yeah, it's an
Yeah.
intense 1 year.
But
Like, you
it's so
sign
much
it up.
fun because the program we did and like the class that we had, everyone just kind of got along and we
Yep.
had a lot of fun,
Okay.
and everyone's like-minded, right?
Yeah, they're very creative.
It was cool,
and-
yeah.
And
so,
so
like,
y-
it's nice to be around. I mean, just like comedy and stand up, like,
Yeah.
it's nice to be around that type. Like, they have the same wavelength. In
Yeah.
a
Totally.
way.
And so
Some
it's-
don't, but
For sure, right?
Yeah,
But the ones that didn't kind of like faked it enough that they didn't bring
Yeah.
the vibe down. You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
the teaching staff was great
The
there, and
teaching staff
everything
is
was
really good
awesome.
there.
So
And so they at VFS in the writing program, to be a teacher there, you have to be like a writer working in the industry. So
Okay.
they were like really knowledgeable about
Oh, wow.
the industry and like really helpful. And like a lot of the teachers we still keep in touch with to
Yeah.
this day. Like they are like liking all of our posts. They're like our most like our biggest
That's
Oh
fans
yeah,
on
amazing.
shout out
Facebook.
Kat
Yeah.
Montague is she's one of the best. Brian Casilio and like some of those.
but so our campus, the building that we had classes in, was right down the road from this dive bar.
Okay.
So
As it
legendary
Yeah.
Vancouver
As it
dive
should
bar,
be.
Pub
Pub
340.
340 didn't make it through the pandemic, which
yeah,
is tragic.
yeah. But we would go in there and like Chai
Yeah.
Pig from SNFU is like one of the Canada's like legendary punk rock bands. And unfortunately, he was kind of like at a declining health point at that point. But to kind of go in there and like you're like rubbing shoulders with a guy that like is in my CD collections and stuff like that, like one of the most iconic frontmen, to me in punk rock or whatever.
Yeah.
So like it was really cool for me. And then I would tell Jackie, everybody that we're drinking in there with, like, this guy's a legend. And he walks in and he's like anemic and weighs like 80 pounds. And you're just like, oh fuck. I've seen better days at that point, but still just like, you know what I mean, a legend. There's something special about that room. I think I pulled my balls out like 3 times during the course of the year.
Definitely more than once.
Yeah.
But we
Was during like class hours?
Well,
or-
no.
Yeah, So
Yes.
like we would
Yeah.
go, so
Yeah.
we would go there at like during lunchtime or whatever. We
Okay.
get like an hour or something for lunch.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we go
Okay.
there and
Like a
we just
$13
like
pitcher. It's like
just
piss
drink
beer. yeah.
pitchers. It was like our cheers. Like we
Oh
walk
my
in, they'd be like
God.
Jackie, Johnny.
Oh my
in
god!
this, like,
It rules.
we need to
seediest
find
bar.
a place like that for you now.
Yeah.
I would love it. I think we
go
found
to,
Grumpy's.
We go
I
to
think,
Grumpy's
but
a
Grumpy's,
lot.
oh,
It's-
yeah.
And
I have to
the-
stay away from that place though sometimes. It's
Well,
just-
and we had like because Johnny, I mean, you may have noticed Johnny needs to be best friends with everyone.
I'm a social butterfly.
So
yeah.
when we first started,
what is it about? My boyfriend's the same way, but anyways, it's fine.
It's so easy to
It's
make
a
friends.
good
Like how
endearing thing.
it is,
no, it's
I
not.
can
I'm not
I can walk into
yeah.
any place and like if I can make eye contact with somebody with a friendly face, then we're probably gonna be buds. It's just
Yeah.
like it's just how it happens.
That's really
yeah.
great.
I haven't
Yeah.
been punched
Do
in
you-
the face in like so long.
So we started going to Grumpy's, and he was like, really wanted to befriend the owner there or
Yes.
whatever. And but
Yeah.
you know he's always busy and like
Yeah.
very nice to Johnny,
Yeah.
but wasn't really taking the bait.
Yeah.
Oh, and
then
it
we
just
were
broke my
there,
heart too.
And we were there one night, and he's kind of cleaning up our table. We're on our way out, and he sees me, and he's like, "Are you an Agnew?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he like knows I have cousins that live here who I guess are very good friends with him. And he's like, "So you do comedy?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so then we started hitting it off, and Johnny just sitting there like, "What the fuck, dude?"
Tried so hard.
Yeah.
I've at that point like I've gone out of my way like a few like weekdays just to drink there to be like, hey, how you doing or whatever, you know, just trying to like be like a face and then like try to regular and stuff like that. It was pretty embarrassing because like there's not a lot of like dive bars, especially in Montreal. There's a reputation as a city that parties, but I think
Yeah.
the price of pints is a
Yeah.
little out of control
It's
at most
out of
places,
control.
and Grumpy's is the most
Grumpy's
affordable place to
keeps
drink.
it-
Keeps it
And
real.
they
Yeah.
play like
Yeah.
Minor Threat and fucking shit. So like
Yeah.
I really dig that place. And then when that was probably the only time that I wasn't expecting
Yeah.
Jackie to get recognized and get all the shine or whatever. And I do feel like they're keeping me at bay because they know I'm trying too hard. They're like,
Yeah,
fucking relax,
once you
buddy.
get that
He'll let
energy,
you in
yeah.
eventually.
yeah, they're
For
friends
sure.
with my friends. We have like it will
Yeah.
happen if
Yeah,
I
yeah,
yeah. But I'm
yeah.
definitely
And I think the what's his name, Dev? No,
yeah,
that's
like
a
the-
bartender.
yeah,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
I feel like he keeps comedians like at arm's length.
Totally.
And he
yeah,
should,
yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
Because
yeah,
we're
yeah.
there
All the
so
time.
often.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's obviously the Tuesdays, like open mics there, but anytime we have a show in that area, we always end up there because it's
Fuck
like it's
yeah.
a cheaper place
Totally.
to like
Exactly,
hang
yeah.
out and drink.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
And it's a good like the vibe about it too. Like there's a thing about like a dive bar that like there needs to be like a few certain elements for it to work. Like price of the drinks for sure.
Yeah.
I think like dark or low ceiling, less windows the better. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? A little sticky
Oh, yeah.
floor. There's like it fucking Grumpy's just checks every single box for
Absolutely.
that.
You need
Absolutely.
the regulars, right?
Oh, the regulars that hate the
Hell yeah.
comedians.
Yeah,
Fucking love
exactly.
it.
Right?
Love the
Oh,
anger.
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. But I did go there with I did meet a buddy at a Flatliner show that we went to. So I met
yeah,
a
yeah.
guy. So new kid in the city, right? You're trying to
Okay,
find a
yeah.
bud. So we go there, and the entire time that we drank for like the course of like 3 hours, he was just like really fascinated with comedy.
Okay.
So then I didn't realize that, but I was like, fuck, I probably sound like an asshole because I'm sitting at the bar just talking comedy for you know what I mean? And within earshot of a bartender that probably didn't want to hear it. So
Yeah.
I mean, he may not be paying attention at all. Like,
Yeah,
if my
I'm sure he probably.
bartender's
You're
in
way
my head,
overestimating.
in my head, everybody's listening to me at all times.
Yeah, that's true.
Everybody's wondering what
it's
is
a
going
good way
on
to
with Jonny
be. It
Devitto.
boosts your self confidence a little.
Yeah.
But I feel like, especially at Grumpy's, the bartenders on staff are tuning out.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And judging by how much they jump into my conversation, I'm sure they're
Yeah.
not listening.
Yeah. Yeah. So to
Although-
answer your question, we met at film school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna get a lot of these. We'll probably answer 3 or 4
No,
questions.
no, it's all good. And how soon after that did you guys start comedy?
So we were in film school for a year, and then we graduated, and then it was another year before we actually got on
Okay.
stage.
Was
Yeah,
it?
we
Okay.
kept saying that we were gonna do it because
Yeah.
we graduated December 2018,
Yeah.
and then it was December
That's
like
right, yeah,
2019
yeah,
that we
yeah.
actually started doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
It was always
amazing.
weird because like, did you have that before we met? Like, I would tell my friends like, I'm going to do comedy this year.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that was
Yeah.
like a whole thing that I've like
Yeah.
always been a
Yeah.
fan of it and always wanted to do it. But when you're from a small town with no scene, like, finding it is weird. And even after moving to Vancouver and
So
there being a
intimidating.
scene there,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I like punk rock, I like other things or whatever.
Yeah.
So like I never find myself like around a comedy club.
Oh, for sure.
Until like one amateur Thursday night show that we were on. They're like, if you think you could do this, and we're like, well, I could bomb as bad
Yeah.
as that fucking guy or whatever. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from a small town, there's no comedy there. There's no art there.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no culture
Well,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
My great grandfather burned to death in a silver refinery. So like, go to
Jesus
work. You know what I mean? Like, go to fucking work. You know,
Yeah.
you don't have time to, you know what I mean, to do all this
Oh,
other shit. There's, you know,
yeah.
there's bills that got to be paid, and I totally understand that. But
Yeah.
like, there's also like the part of you that wants to find that. You know,
Yeah,
that wants to
because there's
you
something
be
creative
Yeah.
inside you. And yeah, when I moved to like Montreal, it was only that's when I got exposed to like different
Totally.
things, and that's
Yeah.
when I started like diving into like comedy even
Yeah.
more. Like when I was growing up and into my teens, I still didn't really grasp the concept of stand-up comedy. I
Yeah.
didn't really know it was like a
Canadian
thing.
kid, though, do you have like just for
Right.
laughs and things like that? Did you like watch it
I mean,
all or pay
even
attention
that,
to
like
it?
from a small town, I was like, my parents didn't have cable. We had
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
like antenna. Like
Yeah.
it was like I was very like I guess sheltered from all
Right.
of
Yeah.
that. It was only like when I was in my teens and like YouTube started. Like I'm 35, so I'm old.
Right.
So like YouTube started. Oh, stand up's a thing. Like these are these
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And it was only when I came here that I started like just listening to specials and then like just diving into it, and I just started getting obsessed with it.
Yeah.
So like I can relate because
Yeah.
you just didn't really have it around you, so
Totally.
Yeah.
it took you a while to find it. I
Oh
guess.
yeah, but I was like a
Yeah.
super outgoing kid, so like I'd get like these like comparisons to like Jim Carrey or something like that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? When you're like in school
Yeah.
and stuff like that, and all these people would be like, "Man, you should like do that or whatever, like, get into acting or
so
something
you were
like that."
always funny from a small.
It's trying too hard, maybe. I don't know, but I'd get laughs, and I remember like from a very young age. I don't know if it's like kindergarten or grade 1 or something like that, but you're cracking jokes and you're on a
Yeah.
roll, and there was this moment where like the entire classroom was looking at you for the next thing that you're gonna say,
Best feeling in the
and
world.
then that was like the best and worst thing that probably ever happened.
Yeah.
But always wanting to to be funny and to do something like that. But we always had just for laughs, right? So I'd come
Yeah.
home after school, and then you'd watch these like 5-minute gala sets and stuff,
Yeah.
and then you kind of
Yeah.
you get a George Carlin special on the weekend on HBO, like on Showcase or
Yes.
something like that, right? And it
Yeah.
just kind of builds and builds, and you see like Eddie Murphy's not Dr. Doolittle anymore. He's
Yeah.
saying wild shit on
Yeah.
stage. You know what I mean, right? So
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
you leave from as you kind of grow, you could kind of start to see it. In Living Color was huge, and
yeah.
Carrey was James Carrey at
Yeah,
the time, and all
yeah,
that
yeah.
shit, right? So like
Yeah.
it was always there, but you're in the fucking woods in the middle of nowhere. So how do you
Yeah.
find it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And how were you a fan of stand-up comedy before you
Yeah.
started writing and everything?
Yeah, my parents were big fans of comedy. My dad in particular, and so we always, growing up, would always watch. He had all of like the SNL DVDs. There was like best of Eddie Murphy, best of Dana Carvey, best of
Lucky.
Mike Myers.
I know,
Oh
right?
my god.
Yeah,
The
so I
DVD collection
watched
her pops has is out of fucking control.
Yeah,
It's
Oh
so
my
I
god,
watched-
that's so
yeah.
cool.
So I watched a lot of old school SNL, watched a lot of Steve Martin movies, a lot of Jim Carrey. So definitely was familiar with comedy and always loved it. And like it was always like being funny was like very like valuable in my house or
Yeah.
whatever. Like you were rewarded
it's
for
it's
it.
a currency.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
good.
But I think in terms of then actually thinking about it, maybe being like a thing I wanted to do, I remember maybe in like high school that idea kind of like percolating, or maybe someone said like, oh, like you should do comedy. And then I came to McGill and I was majoring in English with like a concentration in cultural studies, which
Okay.
is basically film studies at
Yeah.
McGill.
Which means we're poor.
Yeah, and so then like in my second year of that, I remember thinking like, oh, I would love to be like a comedy writer.
Yeah.
And so that's when that idea started going. And like I said, I have a couple cousins here who are
Yeah.
also big comedy fans. And so we
Okay.
went to a couple comedy shows here, which would have probably been the first ones that I ever actually went to, since that was
Oh,
my first
wow.
time leaving
Was it
the
during
island.
the festival or was it just like
It was just like we went to a show at the Nest.
Okay.
We went to like an open mic. Like they just were fans of comedy.
Okay,
Actually, do you
awesome.
know she's a Canadian comic, Rebecca Kohler?
Doesn't ring a bell.
She's like a Canadian comic in Toronto, and she also writes on a couple shows and stuff. Anyways, my cousin's best friends with her, so she's like, was a big part. Would always be at stand-up shows and stuff, and so they took me along to a couple shows. And then after I graduated from McGill, I moved back to the island, but always still like was interested in comedy and would watch a lot of stand-up and stuff. And then sort of going to film school, then it became more of a thing that I actually wanted to pursue.
I can actually write this and like let's try to get this on stage.
That was the coolest part about meeting her is that when we got there, like you know, you want to like especially from like an aspect of like a crime writer or whatever, like it's like a fucking like a brooding kind of artist, or people want to be like, oh man, you really came, like you made it through so much bullshit or whatever, right? And then I get to school and there's a girl that's sitting across the room that's just there to write funny shit.
Yeah.
And the stuff that she was writing was fucking wild too, right?
Yeah.
So like not being self-conscious and I'm going to bring this into a writer's room and everybody's going to fucking table read this thing and we're going to go through it or whatever. She developed a reputation like very quick for like, holy shit, what's Jackie bringing in today kind of thing. And that's like, that was some inspiring shit for
That's
sure.
So cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So the first open mic you guys did, was it together or did you separately?
We were on separately because it wasn't actually an open mic. We didn't.
Okay.
We
Yeah,
had
it was
no.
like sign up.
It was like a
pro-am kind
a
of
booked
thing.
pro-am.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a booked open mic. Like she would book first timers, but you had to email ahead of time.
Yeah.
And
then she'd pepper it with better comics throughout. So it's a good Thursday night show.
Yeah.
It was enjoyable to watch.
And so but that's the only show we knew of. That like we didn't know anything. We didn't even know how to find out where the open mics were.
Yeah.
And so
it's always a process when you first start. Like,
right?
You're just, like,
For sure.
You're like in the
Yeah.
back, just like lingering, like
oh fuck, when
trying to like introduce yourself to people you're intimidated.
Yeah, and we
Well,
were
when
so
we found
lucky
the
that we
mic,
had
like,
each other.
it was- that's exactly right.
For doing that, because if we weren't doing it together, I probably would not have gone, or I would have stopped doing it.
Yeah,
Like, I
I'd still
couldn't
be
have
saying like
fucking-
I'm gonna do comedy this year.
Yeah,
probably.
well, yeah, I wouldn't have started, and then to go to all those open mics alone and stuff, like it would
It's
just
so
be
intimidating and scary.
For
Like,
anybody, for any comic that's out there doing it alone, fucking like props to you and stuff.
Yeah.
But like we're an island, right? So like we could, as shitty as some of those nights are or whatever, at least we get to go home together and you know, you kind of like vent it off or whatever.
Absolutely.
Because it sucks and like the first pro-am shows we did, that was a lot of fun. It was in a basement and like a cool vibe and stuff like that. But then when we found the mics, Vancouver's an incredibly competitive scene with a lot of very good talent there. So like we would go to this place called the Kino, and on one side of the room was established comedians, and then everybody close to the door was just kind of coming in.
You just feel
and
it.
and
You just
yeah,
feel the
they're not
division.
laughing at your jokes; they're laughing at you because you're so ridiculous. Like holy shit, you're getting bumped because some asshole walked
Every
through the door.
time someone walks in the door, you get, and you have no idea how any of it works. So you're just sitting there like, why do they get to go ahead?
Yeah,
and
you're
do
like
it?
taking it personally.
I like budged in front of the line and wrote my name first on a open mic sheet, on a sign up sheet, and I had no idea these guys had been there for like 45 minutes. They fucking read me the riot act.
Oh my god!
So there's some etiquette and things like that you had to learn for sure.
Oh, shit,
yeah, that was pretty. We were so embarrassed. We had like just walked in the door, and then the sheet came out. We're like, "Fuck yeah, we're
Decent.
this." And they were like,
People have been there for an hour. Like,
I mean, I'm sure you weren't the first, like, newbies to like do that.
Oh,
like,
fuck
you don't
no.
know
Yeah,
how
no.
it works. Yeah,
my buddy's a booker now at the club back there, and he's sending me screenshots of shit that people send him. Like they're so entitled. They've done 3 sets, and they're like, "Why am I not getting paid for spots and shit like that?" So like, there's more of it maybe as. As
I mean,
fast
good
as we
for
were
them
moving, we weren't.
to
Well,
have the
hey,
confidence to be
absolutely.
like, I deserve more. But like,
also
it
study the
does
craft, like
take
fall in
time.
love with comedy and understand like that you're
Yeah.
not killing as hard as these other people and try to get to that level. You know
For
what I mean?
sure, Yeah.
To
for
fucking
sure.
demand something when you're not like working to get. through it
Before
or
I
whatever.
started doing comedy, I was a big fan, and I listened to lots of like podcasts with other comedians talk about like their career and everything. So I knew not to come in like hot like that. Like I was like, you have to earn your
Every
stage
step.
time
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely.
So like, thankfully I knew that. But my first set I ever did, I did it with a friend, and that basically I did it to support him because he really wanted to do it, and I was writing with him, and was writing like a year before actually doing a set, and he was like, no, I'm gonna finally do it. I'm like, okay, I'll do it with you. And he did it once and never again, and I kept doing it.
Oh, wow.
But if it wasn't for him, I think like I would be so hesitant to like
to actually go in there
actually
alone.
go. And even like the years like when I first started, the first 2 years, I was so intimidated by the people
Yeah.
that were in the green room with me or in the back of the club with me or back of the bar with me. Like I was so intimidated.
Yeah.
Now I don't care.
Oh, I could give a
Not,
fuck. Now everybody
obviously.
stinks except for me. Yeah, that's But at the beginning too, it's funny because like you love and like respect the art form so much. So
Yes.
when you're starting, I was coming in like relatively old. You know what I mean? I think I was like 27 or 28 or whatever when I first started.
Then too. Yeah.
So I'd be in there and like so there's comics that had already been at it that are like 24 that I
know.
look up to in a
my
sense.
God.
You know what I mean? Right? So it's a weird kind of
dynamic.
yeah,
or, like,
yeah, but I don't know. Basically, if you like the shit, you like the way somebody does it or whatever. You just try to learn and get better.
Yeah.
It is the weirdest thing as a comedian finding out how old everyone is because in my mind I'm like we're all in the same grade.
Yeah. yeah.
And
No.
you find out someone's like
Yeah.
50 or
And
someone's like
I
19.
have such an elder millennial response when like a new comedian is like, I'm 19. I'm like, I want to like vomit on them.
Oh my god.
Now
yeah,
it's different because I always thought that I was supposed to be like the voice of the youth and stuff like that. I was gonna be like punk rock and like lead the charge and shit. And I was so not the kid. I don't even know these fucking kids.
Yeah.
I don't know who they are and I don't know
Yeah.
what they're into.
Yeah.
But I do think it's hilarious because I'm trying to like communicate with people at that age. It's hard if it was just like a 33 to a 19-year-old, but if
Yeah.
you're both doing comedy, then you have a middle ground of like, how can
Yeah.
I get this to land or whatever, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you do,
yeah. Very fair.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, there's a newer comedian on the scene, Carmina, and I feel my age every time I talk to her.
Sure.
And
yeah.
she's, but she's great too
Yeah.
because she like plays along with it.
You're
Because
right.
like I'm like I don't understand that, Carmina. I don't understand that reference.
Oh my
Even
gosh,
though
yeah.
like I'm 35, I'm not technically old, but we have a 15-year age gap.
And it's very clear.
That's-
If you
very
don't know the
clear.
lyrics to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air
Yes.
theme song, then fuck off. You know what I
And
mean?
it's
But-
like to keep up with like it again like makes me feel old to say it because
Yeah.
I know everyone would say this about millennials, but to keep up with like the Gen Z slang
Oh,
and
fuck.
stuff, I'm like, what the fuck
it's
does
impossible.
that mean?
It's impossible.
Like,
Exactly.
Oh
I got my
my
thing,
God.
and even like music too. I was reading this article that's like stuck with me. It was like 6 months ago or whatever. But anyway, basically, like it's harder to find new music that like gives you those goosebumps and gives you that
Yeah.
feeling or whatever that you
Yeah.
had when you were a kid. So you'll find that when you get into your mid-30s, you still kind of revert back and listen to the shit that
Yeah.
you were listening to when you were like were really falling in love with whatever you're falling in love with.
Yeah.
So it's funny now that like nostalgia peaks its head when
Yeah.
people get into that 35 zone for marketing and stuff like
It's
that or
true.
whatever.
It's
so
true.
like, the Nintendo's repackaged and
Yeah.
resold back to you and
Yeah.
Limp Bizkit is fucking touring Lollapalooza and shit
Yeah,
like that or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And it's funny that like,
Well,
you're just
that
trying
was for
to...
us.
It really
Yeah.
is. So my brother,
Rightfully so,
my
I
brother's
guess.
35 years old, unironically listening to Rollin', going down the street
Yeah.
because that was the shit that he liked when it hit, right? So
Yeah.
it's funny. So I stayed up last night. I was talking to a friend of mine from back home, and it's the 3-hour time difference
Yeah.
or whatever. So it's
Yeah.
I'm definitely staying up a little bit too late, but we're watching skateboarding on YouTube and kind of like and just trading music back and forth like we
Yeah,
had before.
yeah.
And it was from such a different perspective than we did when we were in our early 20s because
Yeah.
we were excited about it. You have to
For
listen to
sure,
this.
for
And
sure.
last night it was the conversation of like, fuck, I'm just not putting the work in. So we're like, here's like, okay, so in the last 3 years, this is some shit that I liked. You know what I mean? Just try to put some new stuff into it. Otherwise, it's the
Yeah.
same fucking, 200 songs on your playlist. That you just fucking
Yeah,
keep
well,
listening
that's
to.
what's kind of nice about our podcast because when it started off way more of a music podcast than it is now. Now
It's
it's
fine.
kind of like
Things
at the
evolve.
end. We'll,
Yeah,
like,
we
mention
found
an
our
album
foot.
at the
It's
end.
supposed to.
But like each episode we'll like talk about a different album.
Okay.
And or if we have a guest on, we'll get them to choose an album, and so
Yeah.
it forces us to listen to
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
even not necessarily new music, but maybe music that
That you've
we never
never-
got into
Yeah,
before
yeah.
or
Yeah,
something. So kind of forces
for me,
us
it's a lot
to
of like
keep the-
eye-opening stuff. I'm pretty
Yeah.
like genre specific as far as like punk rock and hip hop.
Yeah.
I found those two things young, and
Yeah.
if it isn't punk, it sucks. Or
Yeah.
I had this like stupid idea of things. So like a lot of great music just kind of like passed me by.
Yeah.
And Jackie's a lot into like classic rock and shit. So she'll bring like stuff that I'm like, oh, I've heard that on the radio, and her
Yeah.
eyes will bulge like, you don't know who the fuck this, like this is, Jimi Hendrix or something like that. Or like, I don't know, I never got
Yeah.
into it. And
Yeah, my
it's like-
boyfriend educates me
it's,
on
uh,
music.
yeah, I have a
Like,
pretty- I've,
I have such like a limited like index or like I don't know, just like it stopped like 2004, me like
Right.
inquiring new music. And
Yeah.
like I shouldn't. I know it's bad. I
Yeah.
know that. So like Mike will throw things at me, and I'll start listening. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, it's
Yeah.
really good. And he just like he knows. First, he like hyper fixated about like the background of this musician and like where he came from. Like he just, anyways.
No, that's the love.
So,
Like
like,
that's that nerd shit or whatever that I love too, and I do it. But that being said, like I wouldn't say it's a limited. It was definitely limited as far as like the whole scope of like music is concerned.
Yeah.
But I have such a vast wealth of knowledge that is fucking not interesting to anybody. But
It's
like
fine.
but if you want to know like what year this came out, like
Yeah.
if it was recorded at the blasting room and fucking with this
Yeah.
engineer and stuff like that, like I do, like know a whole lot about that stuff. But then there's like Bruce Springsteen that I have, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a top 50s like all time great hit will come on and I'll be like, who sings that again? And I have no
Wait,
idea.
he's good, right?
He's all right, yeah.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't. Yeah, you kind of like do what you like. But the great part about the podcast is like it opens up like my eyes to my ignorance and my
sure.
bullshit or whatever. Because I
sure.
sat with my nose up to a lot of shit for a long time, and now I got a girl here that's like, okay, tell me why it sucks, and I don't have a good answer for it.
Have you ever listened to like a 90s pop album like on your podcast before?
Oh, all the time.
All the time?
That's my girl. That's her wheelhouse. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
truly like love like all different genres of music.
Yeah.
So like my playlists are so out of control, like
Yeah.
all over the place. Like
Yeah.
it drives Johnny fucking crazy.
You gotta
because it'll go
like stay
from-
in the vibe, right? Like
Yes.
you can't fucking
Yeah.
go country ballad to like a 90s pop song or whatever.
Yeah.
Spice
Yeah.
up your life
Yeah.
doesn't follow Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
It just fucks,
Exactly.
it fucks me
and
up.
it'll jump between like I'll go.
Sometimes you add things to a playlist not thinking.
Well, she's
Exactly,
good now
yeah,
because when
yeah.
she's driving, she knows if this one's gonna it's gonna be
yeah.
so she'll adjust accordingly for me
Yeah.
now, which is adorable.
But yeah, I love 90s pop. It's,
Yeah.
God,
yeah.
that was like that's what
It's so
formed my
nostalgic.
brain.
Yeah.
Just 90s pop music.
Yeah.
And then like shitty pop music in the early 2000s slash
Yep.
hip hop R&B.
Yep.
Yeah,
So like
yeah.
I have terrible taste. Like this
Oh,
equals
yeah.
I mean,
terrible taste. in
We're not
music.
authorities
I
on
think we
anything.
all
I've
do,
listened to
yeah.
awful like you know,
and so much like in like the early 2000s when pop punk was huge and like
Yes,
like you
yes.
know like the Blink 182 and
Yes.
740 like
Oh my
and like
God.
that and like the whole like that was pop music at the time.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
all pop punk, and then
Yeah.
like realizing it was like in the last year or whatever, realizing it's like this is like kind of like all I ever want to listen to.
it's the soundtrack
Like,
of our life. You know,
yeah.
Feels good.
Yeah,
Because,
it's like imagine
yeah.
this, but a good Charlotte song is playing in the
Oh
background.
my
Oh,
God.
yeah. Well, like
that's hilarious.
that's the weird thing. Like, I mean, depending on like where you find it or whatever, like as like it's stupid or whatever, but like I'm still like lost in the throes of like of that music or whatever. There's
Yeah.
like there's an aesthetic, there's ethics to it or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. Punk rock is the shit to me. But bringing it back to 9/11 as we always do.
Yeah, gotta circle back.
In 2001, my dad is, he's getting clean and stuff like that, and
Mm-hmm.
he made a lot of hard choices and a lot of put in a lot of effort to have a relationship with his kids. So when he comes back and now my mom is shipping us out 8 hours, we're gonna spend some time with our dad, which at this time I'm like 10 or 11 years old, right? So whatever time we were spending before or whatever, like I don't really remember. So like my actual memories of like becoming a person and kind of finding my own shit was through. In 1998, it took me to Spawn in
Okay.
the Spawn movie, and then afterwards we went to an HMV and they had the soundtrack.
Okay.
So before that, I had like it was 90s pop music, right? Because
Okay,
you're a
yeah.
kid. Backstreet Boys was huge,
Yes.
Spice Up Your Life, all that shit, right? Because I just was whatever was available.
Yeah.
And then I remember him looking at me and being like, this is not your bubblegum kind of music that's on the Spawn soundtrack.
Yeah.
But the movie was so badass and so like it had fucking Korn and Slayer and shit on
Yeah.
there or whatever, right? So like it was eye-opening immediately and almost
Yeah.
too heavy for me at the time for me to really get.
Yeah.
But the next year when I came back down, he's like, what the hell am I going to do with these kids? My brother played hockey, so my uncle's like the voice of Hockey Night in Canada and shit, like Ray Farrell's. Like there's a huge hockey
Okay.
thing in my family, but Johnny doesn't know how to skate. And what I mean? I got a decent jump shot or whatever, but I was never really like a jock or anything like that. And he could tell like I was a weird kid. For sure.
Creative.
And then so he's like, Green Day is coming to town, and Warning had just come out, so Green Day was like the biggest, right after Time of Your Life and all that shit.
Yeah.
massive band, and I was like the weird kid. So I went to that show, and then I came back to my small town, and I was like, guys, there's friends out there with mohawks. The weird people are there. Like I found the thing. You know,
you came back with stories.
100%, right? And then and then there was the Warped Tour next summer and all that shit or whatever, right? So I've been like chasing that thing for a long time or whatever, and now it's like the pop punk. We did Josie and the Pussycats soundtrack.
Oh, so
fantastic!
good.
So good.
You know what I
my
mean,
God,
right?
so
yeah.
good. I highly recommend anyone rewatch Josie and the Pussycats.
It's great.
It's like so much better than you remember.
Oh,
Yeah. Like it kind of holds up, but like in the cheesy way.
But it's like actually
you have to
so
like lower
funny.
the bar, and you're like it holds up. Like,
you got to
Yeah,
take
yeah.
your stick out of your ass when you're fucking examining comedy.
Yeah.
Have fun. Sit down.
Yeah.
It's 90 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
100%.
I think that can be said about a lot of things in,
Yeah,
in the world of comedy. But you know what it does kind of come down to it's kind of all we do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're just a sucker for love songs, and we want them, sung with a little bit of attitude, I guess.
It
You know?
was so good.
Yeah.
Sometimes I blast the Lindsay on for no reason.
You gotta.
For no reason. It
I-
just me and my sister used to like blare Lindsay on for some reason. We were like
man.
two weirdo blonde 90s children.
Have you
and
seen the
we're just
video where
like
she-
we had a cassette tape and we used to blast it in our house.
Yeah, I mean, it's all coming back to me now. There's like, there's no ballad like that ever. But
It'll
also
change your life.
Yeah,
Changed
and
my
it's
life.
like I'm also like a huge fan of.
I like you guys just agreed with me on the pop punk thing. Now we're on Celine Dion. I'm like, I
Sorry, we're moving on from what
no,
you said.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Please do.
It was really no, like I love that story. Where your dad like just was like, let's try something. Like let's
Yeah.
didn't like force you.
No, he was rock
to,
and
like-
roll, especially like, and party too, right? So
Yeah.
he kind of was. He knew Vancouver when Vancouver was still like a happening party scene. Tom Petty did "Slippery When Wet," like recorded down the
nice.
street from the Number 5 Orange and shit. Like so, the area that's like the worst neighborhood in Canada now is Main and Hastings or whatever. Used to actually be like a very vibrant kind of rock and roll. Seeing a lot of cool shit that's happening there, right? So there's a lot of history in there, and to kind of get that kind of first-hand advice from somebody that was like that
That's
lived
awesome.
it and shit. Yeah, so then I'd go
Yeah.
home and he'd be like, check out like Social Distortion or something like that or whatever. So like I had a head start on some pretty cool music from like a pretty young age or whatever, which is pretty sweet.
And was your family like into like musical like heavy too, just like
yeah,
comedy?
yeah. My dad is like a huge music fan. Like
Okay.
we
You like Bob Dylan? Fucking, he'll tell you
Yeah.
everything you need to know.
Yeah, but he in our house growing up, he had a media room where like he had all of his records, hundreds of records. And then every kind of music playing device from like the 20s to present day,
Love
like had
that.
like a gramophone, had like a reel-to-reel, like had everything.
Some of the coolest, like if you're an audiophile, or even if you just like shit that moves, like
Yeah.
you've never seen some of this shit
Yeah.
before.
Yeah,
so
so
cool.
my dad is huge into music, so I definitely got that from him. Definitely got like the classic rock from him. I am like my favorite band of all time is Red Hot Chili Peppers, and he takes credit for that.
Good fucking band.
Yeah, we moved into like our house that my parents bought, and like I lived there most of my life in like 04, right when By the Way came out. And so
Okay.
he's like, yeah, when we were moving in and like painting all the rooms and stuff, I was just like playing that album
Yeah.
over and over. So he says that's why I love.
That's why.
Which
yeah.
is like
he can take
bullshit, but
credit, I
sure,
guess.
whatever.
You have this weird thing where you won't let your dad take credit for anything. There's beef about a teen burger thing too. I
Oh
don't
my God,
exactly
don't
know,
get me
but you
started
guys,
on the fucking
they're
mama
the
burger.
father-daughter
Yeah.
arguments that they have are hilarious when they should just meet in the middle and be like, it's cool that we like the same shit.
Credit. I just gave him credit for
just fucking
comedy
with you.
and music.
Let Jackie have something.
Yeah, shut the fuck up.
It's my fault. She's a strong, independent woman that finds everything on her own.
I gave him credit.
I'm
I
just
said
fucking
my
with you.
dad.
Oh, I will never give my parents credit for anything. Anything.
I have to give my dad credit for everything. If it wasn't for him, like he made me specifically. Like it was weird. It's whatever circumstances happened, there was a big tornado of shit. But I'm pretty lucky I came out on the other side of it.
Yeah, but yeah. So my dad, I definitely got that from him.
Yeah,
His love of music for sure.
I wanted to talk about your shift to Montreal a bit before we wrap up. So, how do you find being here in the comedy scene? How have you been adjusting?
Yeah, it's definitely. I think I was expecting it to be a lot easier adjustment than it ended up being.
For sure.
Just
Okay.
like the whole cross country move, because
Yeah.
when we decided to go, we were so ready to go because
Yeah.
things in Vancouver just for so many reasons had gotten really tough, mainly
Yeah.
because of how expensive it is. And so it required us to work so many jobs, you know, just to barely get by.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that takes a huge toll on you. And
Yeah.
so we were so ready to go and so excited to not be, you know, in a place like that anymore. But then getting here, it's obviously a culture shock.
Yes.
But
it shouldn't be.
it
'Cause you're
shouldn't be
in Canada.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, but
because
you guys
of
are
the
doing your own
French.
thing out here for sure, right?
Yeah.
Like I say it on stage too. Like I didn't think you guys were actually speaking French. Like I not taking it this seriously anyway. Like it's
Yeah.
fucking crazy.
And I had lived, because I went to
Yeah,
McGill, so I had
yeah.
been here before, but it's different as a student. You're not really, I wasn't really living in the city.
Yeah,
I was just
yeah.
living here, going to school, and then I went back home, you know, for the summer and stuff. And so actually like making the move out here and being away from BC and all that, and because we had been in Vancouver for a really long time. But being here is like so much better for all the reasons why we did move.
Yeah.
Like for not
my
having
God.
to work
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Like life is way less stressful.
For the past
Good.
6
Yeah,
months,
good.
compared to if you compare the last 6 months that we've had compared to the 6 months previous when we were in Vancouver, you know, like with Jackie waking up at 6 in the morning and driving me to my job,
Yeah.
and I'm on site plumbing and hating that, and
Yeah.
and then Jackie has to come home and she's working from home the whole time too or whatever. That we worked so hard for so long that you just kind of get lost in it, and
Yeah.
then it's tough because you're trying to pursue comedy as hard as you want. So when you're having a good time and like you're killing, and then
Yeah.
you have a great set and you're trying to land that plane because you have to work at 6 in the morning or whatever,
for sure.
is fucking awful. And it
Yeah.
so the worst day out here is still better than the like the I shouldn't say the best day there, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean. But it is
Yeah.
it is
It
good.
was just everything there was revolved around money. It was
That's
like
it.
we
Yeah,
both worked
that's the
full-
most stressful thing.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Like
When
at
it's
the end of the day, like that is what stresses me out
Yeah.
probably the most.
Oh, now we could give a
and
shit.
it's like,
Yeah,
especially
it's
as a
awesome.
comedian, because
Yeah.
you already feel like you're in this like weird pursuit where nothing's guaranteed,
Yeah.
and you feel like not behind, but you're
Yeah.
in like definitely in a different place than where my friends are. You
Yeah.
know,
Oh,
who are
absolutely.
just getting married, having kids,
Oh, yeah.
buying
Oh, yeah.
houses. And
Yeah,
I'm
my brother
like,
just bought his second house.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Especially in a small town, it's very like
Yeah.
married, have kids,
For sure.
maybe buy
Totally.
real estate.
Absolutely.
And
I'm
it's like,
like, how do
what?
you
What's
get
that?
that
What's
kind
all
of
of that?
money?
I don't know what
Yeah.
any of that is.
Yeah, because like so
Yeah.
you just have to like it's great because they look at it, especially from my brother's things like look how hard I've worked and look what I've accomplished. But
Yeah.
when I look at it, I'm like, look at the prison you've built for yourself.
Yeah.
Now you have to work for fucking the rest of
Yeah.
your life
Oh, yeah.
to maintain it, right? So
And that's the thing is
perspective
that I've never been able to work a job that I don't like. Like it just, I just get so depressed. I've never been someone that can just leave work at work or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, not having to do all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely more of an adjustment than I
Mm-hmm.
think we were expecting it to
Yeah.
be. But now, and especially, it's so funny switching comedy scenes
Oh, fuck.
because you have to start out at the
Yeah.
bottom,
Yeah.
at least while you're meeting
Yeah.
people, and they're like, "Okay, I've seen you go up a couple times,
Yeah.
now I'll book you."
Yeah.
So then having to go back to like the open mic scene
For
and being
sure.
like, "What have we done?"
Well, what have we got here? That's the
But,
interesting
I mean-
thing, about this city is that in Vancouver, it's not as segregated, right? You could go to a mic and then you could have like a guy that's been on Netflix and like
Yeah.
really really fucking good comics that
Yeah.
are coming to work some shit out. The mic scene here, you never really see a pro fucking just like pop in and
You
have some
do
fun.
sometimes, depending on
yeah,
the mic.
I
There's
think the
like
ones
one
that
or
we were at,
two,
there's
fewer and far
Sugar
between.
Sammy, that's
Yeah.
what we...
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So from what we had, and then you kind of you can kind of see that there's different factions here and stuff like that. And when
Yeah.
you're new and you have no allegiance to anything, we thought that we were just going to walk in here and be Switzerland and it's all good.
Yeah.
But that's just not the case. Like
Yeah.
at some
Yeah.
point,
But I've
you start
seen
to
it,
get
like-
more work with other people, and then you kind of
Yeah.
stay that. So like just try to keep your head down and run your own race.
For
is,
sure.
basically
Well, like
all
from
you
an
can do.
outsider's perspective on like you guys, like I do see that you have moved faster than like starting from someone like doing their first
Sure.
open
Yeah,
mic,
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
because they do see like, oh, okay, okay, these people have been around for a while.
Yeah,
we can
based
do the
on
job,
your,
exactly.
like the quality of
Yeah.
your comedy,
For
right?
sure.
And now that we've been here for a while and kind of gotten to know people, it's
Yeah.
been, we definitely are feeling more settled,
That's
Yeah.
I
good.
think.
That's
Yeah.
Well,
But it's also
I'm
a hard
still
scene to get in because we're like
is.
they're kind of cliquish.
Oh,
Like there's
yeah.
people that
Yeah.
are very cliquish.
Totally, and we don't know where we stand, and I'm a fucking lunatic, so poor Jackie has to put up with this shit.
Yeah.
Where in Vancouver they'll book you out the whole month, right? So
Yeah.
at the beginning of the month,
Yeah,
you
they do
know what we're
do-
doing here, and then here it's more of a week-to-week basis.
Yeah.
Which
So
is
by
hard,
Sunday,
yeah.
you'll see me at the depths of my sadness and being like, everybody fucking hates me, we're not getting booked. And then
Yeah.
the Sunday around dinner time, now we're working every day until the weekend,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's all
It's
good.
hard.
but,
It's
yeah.
hard though. The
It's-
city is not easy.
You don't really know where you
in
stand
that,
and all
in
that stuff.
But it's like it's maybe benefits us in a little bit because that way like everyone gets like stage time, a little bit more of us than like just one
Yeah.
like group or
Sure.
whatever.
Totally.
But it's hard. It does like there are times of the week that I'm like fuck this.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally. And
Yeah.
that's the thing is
And-
like, especially when you're looking at like a scene that has its own history, we
Yeah.
don't know about any of that shit. And I don't
Yeah.
fucking care what your beef is with somebody.
No.
We could do the job, and I could do it at this place and at this place and
Yeah.
at this place, and I
Yeah.
would like to. We're nice people, we don't smell bad. So like, what the fuck is going on or whatever? But it's up to the powers that be, right?
Yeah.
And we're lucky. With the side that we're on, just so happens to be one of the busier sides or whatever. So
Yeah.
we're working and everything's cool. So I think that
Yeah.
that's okay. Definitely, it's
Yeah.
not my business to try to stay out of it or whatever. But that being said, I would still want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to. I want to
do as
fucking
much
do
as
comedy every day. I want to work
Same.
everywhere. I want to high five.
Same.
Fucking shake
Same.
babies, do the whole thing.
Yeah,
right? So-
yeah, but you just gotta keep doing your thing.
That's
and,
exactly
Yeah,
it.
exactly. And it's beneficial to learn a new scene and just meet
Yeah,
more people.
I've learned
Mm-hmm.
so much
each
by
other.
just going like for a weekend to like a new city
Exactly.
Totally.
and trying, and like you learn so much in just like a few days.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
like one like I commend you guys for just like uplifting and coming because it's not easy and it's very inspirational because like I would love to do that one day, just like get a different perspective, to get different like be around new people,
Yeah.
like
So we're just lucky to have the fucking team because we know
Yeah.
like there's in the past year that we moved, we noticed a mass exodus from Vancouver.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, if you want to do it, I find like if you're a Vancouver comic that can't get into the States, then you become kind of isolated. You never really make it past Edmonton or Winnipeg or whatever.
Yeah.
So we wanted to be able to tour the whole country, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And to do that, you kind of have to get out there and meet some people and.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
do that whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And if we didn't do it together, like I've seen guys do it,
Yeah.
alone, and then you're following them on social media, and you're not seeing their, them
Yeah.
posting anything or whatever. So like you're
Yeah.
only thinking the worst or whatever,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
if you move and you're alone and you're not,
Yeah.
getting in as fast as you could or whatever, like then it could be fucking tough, right? I think I'm just, I'm lucky
In
that,
the last,
that she
like,
puts up with me.
2 years, like since I've been dating like a comedian.
Yeah.
It has been nice to have someone with
Totally.
me. Like even
Yeah.
though we don't do the same shows that often,
Yep.
but we do have shows we do together,
Mm-hmm.
or he'll come with me, or I'll go with him to
Yeah.
shows, and it's just like it is like a little bit of a security blanket in a
Totally,
way,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
like
Have someone
yeah,
with
you get to
you.
go home and like talk about it after,
Totally.
and like
Exactly.
You guys
like,
are cool too. It's fun to see there's another group out there that's doing. I'm like, okay, we're not fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Other people are doing
yeah,
it too.
yeah, but it is really nice. So I understand dating a comedian.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to out there, listeners, don't.
No,
yeah, we
yeah.
don't recommend it.
We're
for anyone
different.
Else.
You have to. We started together.
Yeah.
We met on a common ground of
Yeah.
art, and like
Yeah.
we respected each other
Yes.
before that,
Yeah.
and then found each other funny, and then
Yeah.
started comedy. All that shit.
It's
like
different.
This, you're not gonna
We're
fucking.
way different,
yeah.
okay?
You're not gonna do what we did.
Yeah.
Because we've seen friends of ours start try to date each other when they're
No.
already established comedians, and you're like
Absolutely
you're out of
not.
your fucking mind.
Such
Yeah.
a terrible idea.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Yeah,
We've all
you're
seen
competing
it.
for jokes. You're competitive. Then fucking somebody's gonna get a pop before you.
The
It's-
only
yeah.
reason why Mike and I work is because like we're both like we don't see each other as competition at all.
yeah.
At all.
That rules. You're lucky because I look at her like, fuck, she's gonna smoke me.
No, like we're like we're kind of having
Yeah.
fun with it, but
Yeah.
like I can just because I can be jealous about like a new open micer, and like if I
Yeah.
carry that into a relationship, like
Oh yeah.
no,
yeah.
no,
Yeah.
like,
You got to be anything that she
Yeah.
gets. I'm excited for her. It's all
Yeah.
going to the same
Yeah,
rent. You know what I
for
mean? That's the thing.
sure.
We're doing the journey together. So like
Yeah.
it's about supporting the thing.
Yeah,
Right? So you
for
can't
sure.
get too selfish. And
for sure. we do have to wrap up.
Okay.
But this has been
This is
amazing.
awesome. I could fucking go for
I
this
can
is
go,
great.
really
I'm
could.
gonna have
If
you
you
on
don't
again
stop
because
him,
like
he'll
an
just
hour
keep
isn't
going.
enough. But we always wrap up with 2 questions. As I said, you can answer both. You can answer just one. So the 2 questions are: what is the hardest thing you've ever been through, and what are you most passionate about? Take it away.
Okay, well, we'll keep it light.
Okay.
Speak for
the end
yourself.
of the
I'm going
Most
on,
people
but-
keep it light.
I'll just
Most
say
people
what-
choose one over the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm most I mean, obviously, comedy
Yeah.
is a huge one, and it's what we've like tailored our whole life around.
Yeah.
And music and screenwriting and films and all that is a big one. But also like having nothing to do with comedy, and it's like kind of lame to say, but like
I know
I'm
exactly what
I'm
you're
so I'm so intrigued. I'm
Yeah.
obsessed already.
I am extremely passionate about animals and like animal rights.
I thought you were going to say
and, like,
Survivor.
The
Oh, no, Survivor as well. That goes without saying. Vanderpump Rules,
gonna say
reality
Bravo
show, yeah,
universe.
the Bravoverse. But yeah, animals and animal rights and
Yes,
all
the
that.
SPCA
that's
is right
something
around the corner.
that-
Did you see it when you passed
No,
by?
we
No,
didn't
it's
see
just
it.
around the corner. I
Yeah.
could never step in there. I would end up with 20 dogs.
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
one bedroom apartment and a cat already. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
it's definitely something.
Oh,
We're
fair.
limited.
I love animals too. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so interesting. Okay, I
It's
love
true. It's
that.
adorable. She's vegan and I'm a meat eater and stuff, and it's hard to. She gets me to look at things through a different lens
Oh,
or
yeah.
whatever, especially
that
like
reality
sends me
show.
baby
I'm a
duck
ve- I'm
videos
a
all the time.
vegan, too.
How the fuck am I gonna go eat a duck
So
all
we're better
orange
than
now
him.
with all these fucking cute little baby ducks on my fucking feed? Now? And it's like adorable too, because my Instagram just used to be like butts and shit or whatever, but now it's like all cute shit that I can send to my girlfriend. Or it's cool that you're growing up or whatever. So I think that's cool. I think. Yeah, I don't know. The hardest thing that you ever been, fucking life sucks, man, every
Yes.
day, right? So you just
Yeah.
got to kind of pound through and do the thing. I'm fortunate enough that I'm still funny and I still have a pretty good attitude or whatever coming out of, the area that I did, and I don't have a lot of like my childhood friends or whatever, right? Like I
Yeah.
don't have a lot of people that I can reach out to that are still there or still the same people that they were,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, through like addiction and them just dying or whatever. So like I think that just fucking trying to like maintain and being happy in the place
Yeah.
that you're in now and
Yeah.
stop and not always looking back. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I have so much
Moving
good shit going
forward.
on now that why am I yearning to talk to a friend that's not there
Yeah.
anymore or whatever, right? So like
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
the hardest thing that I've
grieving
ever
old
been through is probably
friendships.
just in my
Yeah.
fucking brain. And I'm lucky enough that I have somebody that puts up with that and kind of
Yeah,
talk
that's the
me off
hardest
the
thing
ledge.
I've ever been through too.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. She goes through a lot. I was trying to figure out how to edit videos and put my own clips on. I want to be a little self-sufficient, and I couldn't figure it out. And I almost punched a hole through my Mac screen the other day. So I could definitely fly off the handle a little bit about that shit. But I
Yeah.
think, just trying to focus and all that stuff is impatience, and you think
Yeah.
you should be further ahead. And you know what? If you think that you should be headlining a club, watch your tape and really
Yeah.
take a look at it, because there's always stuff that you can learn and stuff. So I think that's the biggest thing.
So the daily
And-
grind is fucking hard.
For
The
sure.
Oh
like
my
just
God, yeah.
day-to-day things fucking
Absolutely,
hard.
absolutely.
But,
Like,
but
it'll-
as
it'll-
comedians,
it'll-
like like
it'll
you
pick
have
at
like
you.
a better you try to have a better perspective.
And that's what it
You
is,
have,
right?
like,
So you
an
focus
outlet
on your
at least for
passions
the
and the things that
negative
you're
stuff.
passionate about or whatever to get you through that kind of thing. And I'm
Yeah.
passionate about, you know what I mean, the life that I have, the person that I share it with, that I'm lucky enough to do that with. We got a really cool cat, Gnocchi. Shout out to little Gnocchi. Is
Gnocchi,
the
yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm lucky that through comedy and kind of like establishing a name for us or whatever, nobody's ever recognized us on the street in Vancouver, but when we go to punk rock shows, like that's kind of where the listeners for our audience are.
shit. That's
And we kind of
awesome.
ingratiate ourselves like friends with bands and things like that. So when I was a kid in a small town where it's like, oh, I wish I could, you don't even know how to get into it. If
Yeah.
I would have told that kid that when you're 33,
Yeah.
your best friends are going to be in some of your favorite bands,
That's
you know
so
what I mean? And
cool.
like you're going to get to like perform with them on stage and shit
That's
like
so
that and
cool.
get to do, it's fucking crazy. So, as weird as like, or as impatient as you are and how far you
Yeah.
want to go.
Yeah, you
if,
have
if you would have fucking told me I would have
Yeah.
been here even 5 years ago, I'd have said you're full of
Oh,
shit. So-
absolutely.
It's like with comedy, it's kind of like two sides of it, because on one hand you're like, oh my God, I'm working towards this thing that like might never happen.
Yeah.
And there's no like defined end date or real, like, it's just like this just shapeless,
Yeah.
nameless
Which like
thing.
it
Yeah, where's the
feels
finish
good
line,
in
like
our
Madison
brain
Square
to
Garden?
have that sort of goal or structure, but we don't have that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so on one hand it's really hard, but on the other hand it's like, well, then you have something that you're constantly working for, so
Which
it, like,
is really good. It keeps
yeah.
us productive, and
Exactly,
also
yeah.
like we have like daily almost like we have something that feels great to do.
Exactly,
Like which
yeah.
a lot of people don't.
That's the
Yeah.
part of the
Yeah.
daily
The
grind that doesn't
immediate
get me
feedback,
down.
like we
You know
were
what I mean?
saying.
Is the opportunity to is to create something, and the thing that you're creating essentially is a dick joke or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean,
Yeah.
right? Like, so if you
I
can
know.
really
Yeah.
kind of like try to scientifically
Yeah.
break this down, like I have this stupid new bit where. Kind of like alluding to the fact that my dad did suicide by cop or whatever is a hard fucking bit to get
Yeah,
audiences
yeah,
to laugh to.
yeah.
But it worked the other
Yeah.
night. You know what I mean? So you're like,
Fuck
holy
yeah.
shit. You know what I mean? So these things can happen or whatever, right? But like, it's funny that the jigsaw puzzle pieces that you're trying to fit is something so absurd. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That we get to do. So I
Yeah.
think that that's the cool.
It's so fun. It's
Yeah.
so fun. Well, thank you both for being here.
Thanks so
This
much
has
for
been
having us.
Amazing.
This was a lot of fun.
So
Hell yeah.
much fun.
Yeah.
One of the best episodes I've had so
Oh, fuck
far.
yeah.
this was so much fun.
So where can people find you?
So
3455 Ruder Road. No,
that is our actual address. Yeah, if you want to watch the podcast, like you said, Show Me Yours podcast on every platform.
Monday mornings.
On Instagram, I'm just at Jackie Agnew.
I'm Instagram. I'm at Jonny Devitto. Yeah, holler at your boy. Approach Jackie a little bit, easier or whatever. But if you see me in public, come up and give me a hug. I'm fucking cool.
Oh yeah,
Definitely
very
do not touch
approachable.
me.
do that to her.
Do not touch me. I do carry pepper spray.
Do
you will be
not
feeling
go
it.
up to
Yeah.
Jackie whatsoever.
Be cool. Just because
Yeah.
I'm a social butterfly, don't
Yeah.
assume that she is too.
Oh yeah. No,
Opposites
absolutely
attract.
not.
Yeah.
Well, thank you to the listeners. Like and subscribe. Thank you to ManyVids for this beautiful studio.
Hell yeah.
You know where to find me. HouseOfStonePodcast.com for all the links. Just shout out. I am practicing my hour June 5th, so come see that. You'll find the links on all my platforms
Hell
too.
yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
This
That
was
was awesome.
awesome.
Bye, guys.
All right, peace.